Hey, alright guys, Crazed Moneko is back and well, I just decided maybe I should make a video about it. I saw Crazed Moneko open on the stage events and I was thinking, you know what, let's remake that Crazed Moneko video that I have like quite a while ago. The last one I felt like it was kinda scuffed a little bit and I kinda just wanna make a little bit of an update. Sometimes I see people on the Discord or something using my guide on Crazed Moneko and I feel like maybe I could have improved that one. So yeah, let's get into Crazed Moneko. Crazed Moneko itself, difficulty-wise, it's generally considered like somewhat around Manic difficulty or even harder than Manic in general. So if you are not ready for that, you know, probably don't try Crazed Moneko. The name is Crazed, but it's actually like more like Manic difficulty really. Crazed Moneko itself does have like multiple stages, and the last one really is the only one that matters and the one that I'm going to be talking about, which is in New York, and the continuation stage in Moon. Yeah, this is a continuation stage, which means that you will have to beat two stages using just one lineup back to back. Let's talk about the stage. In New York is a stage with a mix of angels and zombies. The main peons of the stage is Angelic Gory, Zori, and Zeal, and the backliner for the stage is Slipnir and Chick-fil-A. There's also a couple of Zojus and Snakes and Gabriels and whatnot, you know. In Moon is where you actually get to fight Crazed Moneko. For In Moon, the stages start off, it's kind of a little bit hard if you want to go and stall for full cash. If you bring melee units, it's actually pretty easy though. But on base hit, Crazed Moneko appears as well as a repeating wave of one Red Boar, one Cyberborn, and two Alien Seals. It'll keep on spawning every once in a while, and it'll stop like after a couple of times. I think like 5 times or something if I'm not mistaken. Crazed Moneko, if you've already fought her in the previous maps, it's a 240 range unit that can do crit wave on her last hit. She has 3 hit multi-hit, and like I said, yeah, she only does the wave on the 3rd hit and has like a 50% chance of crit. The first 2 hit doesn't do anything, it's just a good amount of damage, it's like 10,000 damage or something. And the 3rd hit, I'm pretty sure also deals same amount of damage, but also deals a wave. You can avoid Crazed Moneko from ever actually landing that wave if you only spawn units that are above her range. For example, if you only spawn Cameraman, which has 10 range above Crazed Moneko will only knock Cameraman back on her first 2 attacks, and then since she already knocks Cameraman back on her first 2 attacks, she won't move forward for her 3rd attack and will miss. And since Cameraman has higher range than Crazed Moneko, Cameraman would not deliberately move inside Crazed Moneko's range. So that's a good way to counter Crazed Moneko, which I'll probably talk about again later on. Now, there's 3 runs that I record for the stage. I'll just play the first run in the background. I'm pretty sure it's already playing while I talk about the lineup. The 3 runs, the first one being a no Uber run, where I also kind of hold back on some of the units a little bit. Like I use Drone, but I like hold back on using Ramen Cat. Like I used Artist instead, and I used Surfer instead of Seafarer, and you know, and so on and so on. I'm sure you can find replacements for a lot of these units, which I'll again explain a little bit more so that you can make your own judgment on what units you have that can replace the units in my lineup. The second run that I have is using Uber, specifically Tandia and Windy, which is just a, you know, kind of like just a replacement of like a generic ranged Uber really. The third one is another non-Uber lineup, but this one I don't really hold back, and I actually use True Forms and stuff this time. Now, moving on to the lineup, first of all, canon recommendation, I would choose either Normal, Holy Blast, or Breaker Blast. Holy Blast or Breaker Blast, if you have them only at level 1, that's completely fine. Level 1 is all you need. These all are mainly for unburrowing Zeal on the first stage, and I would highly recommend Breaker Blast on top of all of them. Because Breaker Blast, aside from being able to unburrow Zeal very easily, is also just usable outside of, you know, just unburrowing Zeal. For the cats, I, first of all, would definitely highly recommend bringing Ramen for the first stage especially because, well, angel enemies. Do I really need to go more? If you have knockback resist talent on Ramen, it can actually kinda help, but I highly doubt that anyone have that talent. The next one is the Jurassic Cat. You might be wondering when this stage doesn't have any crits. Jurassic Cat is actually for a combo with Little Cat, or Little Mohawk, which is Minisaurus, a research combo, which can help out for Ramen and Cameraman specifically. Speaking of Cameraman, Cameraman is a great choice for both the first and the second stage. For the first stage, it's able to repel some of the peons. For the second stage, it's able to do quite a lot of things. I'll get into it a little bit later again. Thaumaturge is great for weakening the boar on the second stage. Another recommendation is units with dragon range. Spammable stuff is, or Ubers, whatever that has dragon range. Whatever it is that you need to deal with the Slipner and Chick-fil-A, because, you know, mid-rangers can't really outrange them. Bats is actually especially good if you have them true formed, because being anti-red is also very useful on the second stage, and being on the first stage is also able to deal with the Slipner and Chick-fil-A, though probably won't be able to do it alone since Bat has really long cooldown. Generalist Ubers in general, that has 400 range and above, is obviously also going to be great for dealing with the first stage. The rest are kind of varying, though I would definitely recommend basically anything for the peons on the first stage, or the anti-boar for the second stage. Something like Can-Can for the first stage can be nice, but avoid spawning Can-Can on the second stage because Can-Can has lower range than Crazed Moneko. Something like Seafarer is also great for the other aliens in Moon. If you do want to bring anti-reds for the boar, try to make sure that whatever that anti-red you're bringing is going to outrange Crazed Moneko. The first stage doesn't really have much specific strategies, just again, try to unburrow the seal with your cannon, and also that if you are bringing like a lot of dragons, like double dragons or dragons with bats or something like that, then you can actually optionally lure on base hit. That way you can build up a stack and be able to deal with a lot of the peons with a bigger dragon stack. But yeah, first stage doesn't really have that much like a specific strategy, especially if you're using Ubers, it's probably way easier. Second stage, however, it's actually kind of the other way around. I would say that using generic generalist Ubers makes the first stage way easier, but the second stage probably a little bit harder. Using spammable AoE units probably makes the second stage way easier, but can't really carry the first stage. So yeah, I would say it's kind of like the other way around for these two. Now for the second stage, again, I will repeat that avoid spawning anything that is under Crazed Moneko's range, especially after hitting the base, unless you know what you're doing. Cameraman is especially good here because she's doubling down as both a range meat shield and an attacker for the boar, and even doubly good with Minisaurus, that cuts down her cooldown. You get a good amount of cash here after beating up the boar, so stackable range attackers kind of reigns actually in this stage. Ubers are kind of just okay here unless you're bringing some mega busted Ubers. Meanwhile, stuff like Drone and Bat is actually going to be really nice in this stage because they are pretty stackable, they have good range, and will shred the hell out of boar. I would not really recommend bringing ICAT at all actually, and if you are bringing Can-Can, then again, avoid spawning them. Remember to try to bring units that outrange Crazed Moneko instead of something like Can-Can or ICAT, which gets outranged by Crazed Moneko. You can instead bring something like Pirate Cat or Enchantress, which can outrange Crazed Moneko but only in true form, or Ice Cat, or some other anti-red Ubers really. Like in this run that I have, Tundia is the anti-red that I'm bringing, and she's only like level 30. Both Winnie and Tundia is like only level 30 and they don't really have talents, and they're doing a pretty good job. And then you might ask, oh, what about Wave Blocker? What about like Octo? Octo gets outranged by Crazed Moneko and ironically will cause wave if you spawn him incorrectly. Like if Crazed Moneko kills Octo on her third hit, Octo will instead generate wave. So yeah, ironically I would not recommend bringing Octo. But then you might ask, what about long range Wave Blocker Ubers? Yeah, okay, you definitely use that. You can ignore like half the things that I've said. If you have a range Wave Blocker Ubers, you don't really need to be that careful anymore. In that case, it's completely fine to bring melee units or ICAT or whatever. Yeah, second stage is kind of free as long as you know what you're doing. You don't need to hold back on like not spawning meat shields or whatever if you're bringing a ranged wave blocker. Other than that, I think that's kind of all about the stage really. It's like, just remember to not spawn much melee units on the second stage, but again, like I said earlier about the Ubers being good on first stage but not really on second stage, I think like try to find a balance on your lineup that can deal with both the first stage and second stage. Again, to repeat, spammable range units are generally better for the second stage and Ubers are better for the first stage. If you don't find the first stage to be too problematic, then you can probably consider taking out some of your Ubers for a more spammable range attackers or spammable AoE attackers. Maybe something like Cyborg or something can also work, especially if you have like her survive talent. Anyways, just spam shit, you'll get it eventually. A lot of the things that I've talked about in this video kind of already been talking about in the last video, but then I just want to redo it and give a little bit of slight revision. Last time I also recommend only bringing like one ramen and one eraser. Looking back, I don't actually recommend that anymore, unless your ramen's level is like really high, then like yeah sure, but unless your ramen level isn't like super boosted, I would not recommend bringing only ramen and eraser. At the very least, this one has Little Cat in it, which like it ain't eraser, but it's a meat shield. Anyways, that's about all. If you want to ask anything, then do ask it in a comment, and I might answer if I actually know what the hell you're talking about, because sometimes I get comments of asking stuff that are like, either, first of all, it's in the video, or second of all, I don't even know what the hell you're talking about. But yeah, hope this helps. Hope you can get Crazed Moneko, because Crazed Moneko is actually a pretty good unit, I would say. Or if you just want her for collections, really. That's all. Thanks for watching. Hope this helps. See ya.